information for remote access to tonight's meeting, as well as procedural guidelines that will be followed for this meeting. Due to efforts to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, physical access to the City Commission meeting will be restricted. In accordance with the Kansas Open Meetings Act, (COMA), the meeting can be viewed live on Channel 23 and via Facebook Live or listened to by dialing 1-312-626-6799 and entering meeting ID 958-8516-8215 #. Please note, participants who generate unwanted or distracted noises may be muted by the meeting host. If this happens, please unmute yourself when you wish to speak. That information can be found at the top of today's agenda. Guidelines for this meeting are as follows. Each member of the public, staff, or presenter is required to state the individual's name and title, if any, each time the individual begins speaking or voting, so that the individual can be identified by remote listeners or observers. Citizens that submitted comments by 8:00 a.m. today to publiccomments@ottawaks.gov were given to the City Commission to be read during public comment or during discussion on an agenda item. The Commission must describe at the beginning of the meeting the process that will be used for a closed or executive meeting pursuant to KSA 75-4319 and amendments thereto.
Thank you, Misty. Now I'd ask you to call the roll of commissioners.
Mayor Wygand.
Present.
Commissioner Kaler.
Present.
Commissioner Crowley.
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Present.
And Commissioner Jorgensen. I see him. I think he's muted.
He is present. I want to, this is Mayor Wygand. I want to welcome all those who are attending our meeting, whether by distance, over the phone, through social media, KOFO, and all others may have tuned in today. We will begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and then an invocation by from Commissioner Skidmore. So let's rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mike?
Sure. Before I pray, I just want to mention, I read recently in the book of Joel. It's a short chapter, a short book in the Old Testament, only 3 chapters. It was written in 850 BC. Just shows you that there's nothing really new under the sun as I pray. Dear, the scripture reads, "To you, O Lord, I cry out, for fire has devoured the pastures and the wilderness, and the flame has burned up all the trees of the field. Even the beasts of the field pant for you, for the water brooks are dried up, and the fire has devoured the pastures and the wilderness." Let me read that first line to you as well. "To you, O Lord, I cry out." Let's pray. Father, this verse is also applicable to today. We think about friends in the West Coast suffering from the ravages of the fires. Now, Lord, we cry out to you now and ask for relief. We just ask for you to change the weather patterns, bring rain, bring cooler temperatures, just bring relief to these people that are suffering. For those that have suffered loss of life and the family members, our hearts are lifted up. Pray for them. Also for those who have lost property and businesses, whatever it may be, we just ask for an extra measure of relief from you. And Lord, thank you for your protection of our community. We've never experienced anything like this, and we're thankful that you've protected us, and thank you for your many blessings here. And Lord, as we look over this agenda and the items today, we just ask for your direction and guidance as we rely on you, as we yield to you for our decisions, for our wisdom and guidance, each and every item of the agenda today. We just give you thanks in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Skidmore. We have a consent agenda that includes the July 20, 2020 study session, the August 3rd, 2020 study session, the August 5th, 2020 regular meeting, and the August 10th, 2020 study session. Do we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Commissioner Crowley will make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Skidmore will second that.
The move and second, if no further discussion, would the clerk call the roll?
How do you vote, Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
And Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, and Mayor Weigand.
I vote yes too. Motion approved. Moving on to our regular agenda. Do we have any public comments today?
I am not aware of any.
If we have none, I will dispense with item 8 and go to item 9, which is the declaration. And at this time, I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Crowley.
I will abstain from item 15 on our agenda today as I'm personally involved with a few of those properties.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move to new business. Madam Clerk, would you want to read that and then I'll fill in the comments?
Proclamation recognizing Constitution Week on September 17th through 23rd, 2020.
Constitution Week is an official week to commemorate the anniversary of the creation of the world's longest lived written constitution. D.L. Crusoe will accept the proclamation. And if I can pull it up here, I will read it. Whereas September 17, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation. And whereas in 1956, at the urging of National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, Congress set aside September 7th through 23rd annually to be dedicated for the observance of Constitution Week. 2, number 1, emphasize citizens' responsibility to protect and defend the Constitution. Number 2, to inform the people that the Constitution is the basis for America's great heritage and the foundation for our way of life. And number 3, to encourage the study of historical events which led to the framing of the Constitution in September 1787. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 7 through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, the governing body of the city of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby proclaim September 17 through 23, 2020, to be Constitution Week in Ottawa, Kansas, and asks our citizens to reflect upon and reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787, signed this 16th day of September 2020 by Tom Weigand, Mayor. Would you, D.L. Crusoe, like to speak to this? Yeah, there, Deanne. I think you're in mute, though.
Okay, excuse me. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I am D.L. Crusoe, and on behalf of the General Edward Hand Chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, I humbly and proudly accept this proclamation regarding Constitution Week. 233 years ago, September 17th, 1787, the framers of our Constitution gathered in a room to sign a document that is still in effect today. It is the oldest document still in active use that outlines the self-government of a nation. These men that were selected to draft our Constitution came from various walks of life. The oldest delegate was 81, Ben Franklin. The youngest was 26, Jonathan Dayton. Their political lives probably started very similar to yours. Neighbors and family sitting around the kitchen table or in the parlor discussing the issues affecting them at the time. The American colonists had fought, sacrificed, and died to establish a new nation. These men knew the great responsibility in front of them to craft a document that would ensure the success of the new republic and allow that republic to grow. So from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1787 to Ottawa, Kansas in 2020, our desire for self-governing and taking care of our communities and neighbors continue. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for your service to our community. There is one thing I'd like to mention is we will be ringing bells tomorrow at noon at the Old Depot Museum and also the First Baptist Church. Thank you for your time today.
Well, Deanna, thank you so much for being with us today and reading those statements. The document it should be of interest to us all and the understanding of its value and importance. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes, I wonder if I might ask Deellen a question.
Yes.
Deellen, I know that you had indicated that you will be ringing bells tomorrow. Can you tell us what time you'll be doing that?
Oh, that will be at noon. Yes, at noon tomorrow at the Depot Museum. And I think that's also at the time when it's going to be done at the Baptist Church. I think they do it every day, but we're going to do it in commemoration of this event tomorrow. So
Perfect. Thank you so much.
thank you for asking.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to item 11. Madam Clerk.
I think the city manager had a comment.
Mr. Mayor, is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Richard Ninestead, City Manager. I want to thank Dee Ellen for being here. And I would just say, in today's context, I want you to think about this: 233 years, the longest lasting constitution that we know of. And I think what's also important for people to understand is this was not the first government we had. We actually had a confederation. We had Articles of Confederation. It didn't work. The country was just not being governed, and you had 13 city states. And these men came together and drafted this Constitution. I think the important thing to understand in today's context is, by our standards today, they all had flaws. They had flaws then, but they had flaws now. And they knew what those flaws were, and they debated how to address those flaws in the Constitution. But in the end, they put together a document that does, after many years, after amendments, that we get to the place today that this Constitution guarantees liberty and justice for everyone, regardless of color, race, creed, sexual orientation. Now, that's a difficult concept sometimes to get to, but the truth is that that's what we work for every day. That's what you as elected officials work for. That's what we as city government officials work for, is that we have fairness and equity and justice for everyone in our community. So thank you for that time, Tom, and thank you, Dee Ellen, for your comments.
Listen, Mayor Wygand, I really appreciate those comments, Richard. That's something that we should understand and never forget how this country is held together. Item 11, request. You want to read that, Madam Clerk? I think you
Yes.
did.
Request for approval of replacement ordinance authorizing the issuance of delivery of $1,617,000 principal amount of general obligation bonds, Series 2020A, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on the bonds, and repealing ordinance number 20171-20. And I want to make a correction. That's actually ordinance number 4071-20 that we're repealing. It was just an error on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And the attached documents have been drafted to reflect the lower interest rate of 2.125%, an adjusted closing date of October 5, and a new amortization schedule. And we have Tyler Ellsworth and Adrian Serene of Kutak Rock to talk to us about what we've done here, or what we're being asked to do today.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. This is Tyler Ellsworth of Kutak Rock. As you all may recall, we were before you at your August 19th commission meeting, requesting approval of a bond ordinance and resolution for the 2020A bonds, which are being purchased by the USDA and which finance sanitary sewer improvements in Proximity Park. When we were before you last month, we mentioned that there was a possibility that USDA might reduce their interest rates effective October 1st, and we might come back to you this month to amend the bond documents to lower the interest rate and also to bump our closing from September 28th to October 5th. That lower interest rate has come to fruition. USDA has confirmed that if we bump closing by 1 week into October, that we can lower the interest rate from 2.25% to 2.125% on the bonds. And so we're requesting that the commission consider this morning item 11 on your agenda, which is a bond ordinance authorizing the issuance and delivery of the bonds, repealing the bond ordinance that was approved at your August 19th meeting, and also item number 12 on your agenda, which is a bond resolution, repealing and replacing the bond resolution that was adopted at your August 19th meeting. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
This is Mayor Wygand, and we do treat these item 11 and 12 separately. The item 11, we're going to ask for a motion and discussion of the approval of the replacement ordinance authorizing the issuance. And then number 12, we'll talk about the actual replacement resolution. Commissioners, have you got any questions? Commissioner Jorgensen?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Jorgensen, I move to approve the replacement ordinance as described in item 11. And I would encourage Tyler to come back again and lower it again. But this is the best that we can do at this time. So thank you.
Commissioner Kaler will excitedly say yes to that. I mean, if you can make that happen, Tyler, yes, please do that.
Absolutely. No promises, but
yeah,
we do what we can.
But second the motion, absolutely.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Commissioner Skidmore has a question on this. Only that I'm assuming this is being paid out of the half-cent sales tax of Proximity Park. Is that correct on that?
I believe that's correct. I believe, this is Tyler again. I believe that's correct. Ultimately, these are general obligation bonds. And I may defer to Richard on this, but I believe the intent is to repay debt service from that sales tax.
Commissioner Skidmore, Richard Ninestead, City Manager, and you're exactly right.
Well, I'm encouraged by that because I see that we're averaging about $125,000 a month coming in on that half-cent sales tax, and this debt service will be about 60% of that. So we've got a good cushion there to work with. And I also asked Tyler if there's ever been a commission that did not vote for a rate reduction.
Not in my experience, no, sir.
Just curious. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and any other discussion? Hearing none, ask the clerk to call the roll.
This is
Call
Assistant
for the
City
vote.
Clerk, Misty Combs speaking. How do you vote, Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Mayor Wygand?
I vote yes too. Motion carries. Item 12.
Request for approval of replacement resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing the delivery of $1,617,000 principal amount of general obligation bonds, Series 2020A, previously authorized by ordinance and repealing resolution number 1839-20. And this is Assistant City Clerk Ms. T. Kemp speaking.
The attached documents have been drafted to reflect the lower interest rate of 2.125% and adjusted closing date of October 5 and a new amortization schedule. And Tyler and Adrian are with us. Do you have any further comments towards this?
Mayor, this is Tyler. Nothing to add.
Okay, I would accept a motion from the commission.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Skidmore had his box checked first.
Well, okay, but only because I want to make the motion, we approve item number 12. And I have a feeling there will be no problem with a second on that.
Commissioner Kaler, you want to second that?
I don't know. Yes, I will gladly second.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? I call for the vote. Madam Clerk?
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Combs speaking. How do you vote, Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Wygand?
And I vote yes too. Motion carries. Item 13. Thank you, Tukak Rock.
Thank you all.
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Combs speaking. Request for approval of ordinance vacating a portion of the utility easement at 1642 Industrial Avenue.
The property owner, Select Steel, requested the vacation of the 20-foot wide utility easement between lots 3 and 4. The Planning Commission reviewed the request, held a public hearing, and recommends approval of the vacation of 380 feet of the easement by a 6-0 vote. We are asked to grant that approval. Wendy, you want to discuss that further?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. And as we have shared with you, this request came from the owners of the property. As they are preparing to sell the property, the buyers found that an easement existed underneath their existing building. The easement has no utilities in it. The notice was sent to all the affected parties by the statute's requirements. Public hearing was held. There really was no concern by the neighbors or any of that. The only real discussion was just, as I shared on Monday, there was some discussion about the utility director wanting to be sure that the new owners were aware of the power service to the building. That's not in this easement. It doesn't have anything to do specifically with this easement. It was just an opportunity to communicate to the new owners. And so that was done. The Planning Commission had included that as a condition, thinking that they needed a new easement. But after a discussion with the utilities director, he did not feel that was necessary. And that would make it unique rather than it's the norm that we have with a number of these kinds of situations. So the Planning Commission recommended the vacation of the specific easement requested, as do staff.
Okay. Mayor Wygand, again, asking if there are any questions, further discussion from the commissioners.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Skidmore,
Yes, Commissioner.
just a question of Wendy and on this, with regard to Dennis Tharp's comment about having access to the panel, is that pretty much understood no matter what property it is, or does that need to be any kind of a covenant recorded at the courthouse for that?
Commissioner Skidmore, this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development, and I've noted that the Director of Utilities nodded no. That's really their procedures and practice. They just wanted to alert them so that they could have a conversation. Had there not been a request for an easement, they would have just done it upon the new business moving into the business. It was just a kind of a preemptive communication. And unfortunately, that wasn't fully understood at the time by the Planning Commission. After a long conversation with Dennis and myself, he indicated this is like a service line if you're thinking about at your residence. The difference is this is underground, so you can't just see it, and it goes to transformers there. So he knows the current owners were aware of that. They had lots of conversation. He just wanted the buyers to be aware.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Crowley here.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yep. Wendy, do we need to, if I were to make the motion to approve, do we need to state that we are approving the vacation of the easement and then also going against what the Planning Commission was saying about the utility easement?
You know, in some ways, if the city attorney is on the call, he can probably instruct you more appropriately. My preference would be that you acknowledge that request, but that you are not requiring an easement related to the electrical system, that you are just simply vacating the easement as requested by the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, go ahead.
Mayor, if I could, this is Dennis Tharp, Director of Utilities. I don't think there's any reason to overcomplicate this. This is a service line that goes into the transformer that feeds that building. The line actually runs through a laydown area. And all we were trying to do was point out to the new owners that if there were a problem, they need to be aware that that line does run in there like that. It does not run overhead, so it is not as noticeable as some. This is really not an extraordinary situation. This was just a chance to communicate what we have talked about here. So I don't know that there needs to be anything different done here at all, quite honestly.
This is Mayor Wygand. I have a question. Will this show up on the deed that this easement has been vacated?
Mayor Wygand, this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. Actually, after you take action, provided that you vacate the easement, it is recorded at the courthouse. And then, yes, it's forever acknowledged that it was vacated. And then they can reference the book and page.
Okay, I just felt like it'd be good for the, if we take the action to vacate it, that it is recorded, or it will show up as an easement sometime 20 years in the future, and there could be issues.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? There being none, I would accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Crowley here. I'll make the motion to approve item 13 as stated on our agenda then.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Jorgensen seconds.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. Madam Clerk?
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Kim speaking. How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Wygand?
And I vote yes also. Motion carried. Congratulations to the Thompson and Select Steel for the sale.
Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 14.
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Kim speaking. Request for approval of resolution accepting the final plat and dedication of easements and right-of-ways within Proximity Park.
The final plat dedicates new utility and stormwater easements along the street right-of-way. The Planning Commission has reviewed and approved the final plat by a vote of 4-0. Wendy, anything to say on this?
Mayor, this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. This is a formality in a lot of ways, and just kind of a routine order of business. On the other hand, I think it's an opportunity to kind of celebrate where we are with Proximity Park in the completion. The final plat isn't brought to you until after the infrastructure is in, so that you can formalize that acceptance of all of the easements and improvements. At this time, we're also communicating what the covenants and restrictions will be on the land. But we've spent a lot of years trying to get to this point as a big, broad city, county, community team, and we're pretty excited that this puts us in position that we can do what we need to do to sell land to folks to develop on. So we do recommend approval and acceptance.
This Mayor Wygand, yes, it's been a long time and a lot of investment, so we are officially shovel ready if we approve these easements. Any questions, discussion, or a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner Jorgensen.
Commissioner Jorgensen speaking. Just a quick question for Wendy. I noticed the vote on here is shown as 4-0. And the previous action by the Planning Commission was 6-0 on item 13. Were there abstentions or what's the difference in the number of votes?
Commissioner, this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. They were done at different meetings. The plat had to have some dates changed, and I think the mayor's signature or somebody's signature was incorrect. And so by the time they got it back to us, this was the next meeting for it to be taken action versus the vacation came directly from the last meeting.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Skidmore, I move that we approve item 14 on our agenda.
Commissioner Crowley with a second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? There being none, I call for the vote. Madam Clerk.
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Kim speaking. How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley? Sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen, goodness gracious.
I vote yes.
Commissioner Kaler.
I was not trying to take Commissioner Crowley's vote. I will vote yes too.
And Mayor Wygand.
I vote yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
I apologize.
Well, you're good. Item 15.
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Kim speaking. Request for approval to add 8 residential properties to the Neighborhood Revitalization Program.
The Neighborhood Revitalization Program Review Committee has reviewed and recommends adding these properties to the program. The addresses are residential selling property at 837 North Cherry and 1011 South Main. There's residential new renting property at 706 North Cedar, 714 North Cedar. And there's residential residential remodel to sell at 922 South Willow. And there's a residential remodel to rent at 113 West 4th, 118 North Locust, and 825 South Tremont. Any other discussion on this? I would like to know, and Wendy, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but we've done a lot of neighborhood revitalization projects this year, which is wonderful. It is really picking up and done a lot of good in the infill areas of our city. So that would be my remarks. And I think these are self-explanatory. There's 95% tax rebate for 5 years on the improvement. It doesn't take anything off, it puts a little bit on and more to come. If there's any other comments, they're welcome. If not, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, this is Commissioner Jorgensen.
Yes, Commissioner Jorgensen.
I did not disclose earlier on it on our agenda. I do have a professional relationship or have had professional discussions on a few of these properties. I am not compensated by commission, and my compensation at my day job is not affected whether or not these properties pass. So it is not a conflict of interest by the letter of the law, and I will continue. I will vote on any motion on these items.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kaler.
Yes, Mayor Wigan. Thank you, Commissioner Kaler speaking. I have served on this committee now, I think for, I don't know, several years. And I think you're absolutely correct. This is an amazing uptick in what we're seeing in our community. And in fact, oftentimes when we hear about things here on the City Commission and we talk about things in the City Commission, generally it doesn't take ripples through our community, or I don't hear from other community members, but I seem to be hearing from a lot of community members who are making comments about how great our community is looking and about how the infill seems to really be working. So I am proud to be on this committee, and I am always excited when Charlotte sends me the packet of information to see about the new and revitalized spaces in our community. I appreciate the staff at community development. It does not come without a tremendous amount of work that they move this to our agenda. So thank you to the staff for doing so. And saying that, I will make the motion to approve the 8 residential properties to be listed to the neighborhood revitalization program.
Yeah,
Commissioner
Skidmore will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none,
Commissioner Skidmore, I got just one brief comment. This would be for Wendy. Sometime, Wendy, could we have your department complete a report as far as how many of these we've done when we started the program? Maybe itemize out like we've done here, A, B, C, D, but also add in commercial properties, rentals, businesses, and others. It'd just be interesting to see how many we've been able to accomplish. The reason I'm bringing that up is about 5 years ago or so, this commission agreed to start working on the housing situation in Ottawa. I kind of like to see our progress over the years and this certainly has been one instrumental part of that progress. I agree.
Commissioner, we'd be glad to put together a report. This program, this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. This program goes back many years. So I guess, do you want it to be more like the last 10 years, or would you want us to go from the beginning?
Oh, I would say last 10 years would be great. I think it is a good synopsis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, you're muted again.
Okay. This is Mayor Wygand. If there is no further discussion, I would call for the vote.
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Kemp speaking. How do you vote, Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
I will abstain.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
And Mayor Wygand?
I vote yes also. Motion carries. Item 16.
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Kemp speaking. Request for approval to purchase property at 509 North Hickory and 511 North Hickory.
Funds from the Stormwater Utility Fund will be used to purchase the properties which are adjacent to Possum Creek. Removal of the houses would provide more stormwater detention for the area. Mike Hafley, would you like to review that with us?
Absolutely, Mayor. This is Mike Hafley, Public Works Director. I think I have the ability to share my screen tonight, so I'll pop this up here. Oh, where did it go? Scroll on. There we go. Okay, so the properties that are listed here, 509 and 511 North Hickory, are the two properties sitting within the orange area here. Um, the city already owns the two properties south of these two properties here on the corner of Hickory and Logan. The property to the east of that, which is the bigger lot of the three, I misspoke the other night. I thought the city owned that, but that is actually owned by ECAN. That'd be the vacant empty lot here sitting right next to the alley. These two houses sit, as you can see, the blue dotted line sits, or the blue dotted line is Possum Creek that flows underneath the alley. The creek is actually very shallow on the north side, and I'll bring that picture up here to show. This is a picture looking back at the house at 509 North Hickory. You can see how shallow that is. The bank, I mean, it just about any kind of rain. These two backyards flood. You can see the houses are right there at the ground level. They both have walkout basements, so water gets in them quite frequently. Can you see this picture that I just popped up of the corner of the house?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we
Okay.
can, I can see them.
Okay, so coming down from the corner of the house, there's only about 4 foot there to the bottom of the creek, and you can see that house sits right on the edge of the creek. It's not a safe situation there. So the owner has offered to sell the city those two properties. And according to one of the recommendations in the Stormwater Master Plan from 2008, I believe it was, this was one of those low-hanging fruits that was a recommendation to purchase those two properties and create essentially another bowl or detention area. And as you can see from the pictures, that area back there behind those two houses is nothing more than a bowl that collects stormwater. And having those two houses removed would just allow for that much more detention in heavy rains. So it is our recommendation to purchase 509 North Hickory at a cost of $37,800, and $37,800 is for North Hickory, 511 North Hickory, and $34,380 for 509 North Hickory.
This is Mayor Weigand, and we will scrape the lot and prepare it to receive water.
Yes, we would demolish both houses and prepare it for stormwater.
Mayor Weigand.
Yes, Commissioner.
This is Commissioner Kaler speaking. Michael, would you, what part of the budget if we pass this, will the purchase of these houses be derived from?
The purchase of these, this Public Works Director, Mike Hafley. The purchase of these two houses will come from the Stormwater Utility Fund.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioners? There being none, I would call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, this is Commissioner Jorgensen. I do have another question for Michael.
Okay.
That lot to the south that is owned by ECAN, does it make sense to approach them as well, so you have the entire half of the block in city hands? I mean, they could continue to have their garden there, I would imagine, as long as it didn't affect the retention. And I'm asking you to comment on the fly here.
This is Public Works Director Mike Hafley. Thank you for putting me on the spot, Commissioner. I appreciate that. It could make sense if but right now that property, that piece of property is at a higher elevation than where those two houses are. The reason we purchased the other two houses that were immediately west of Ecan's lot, one was sitting directly over top of of Possum Creek, and when you walk down Possum Creek, you could look up and see the floor joists. The other house was built right up next to the retaining wall on Possum Creek, and it was starting to push the wall. The house was settling, if you will, and pushing that wall out. That's why we purchased those two properties. Now, I don't know that we would gain anything by having control of that. If it came necessary to do that, then yes, I would probably come back at a later date and ask to be able to go work with ECAN to acquire that property. But at this point, I don't see a need.
Well, thank you for that answer. With that being said, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the request to purchase the two properties as described in item 16 of the agenda.
I will second. Commissioner Kaler will second that.
Mayor Wygand, it's been moved and seconded that we purchase those properties. If there's no more discussion, I would call for the vote.
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Kemp speaking. How do you vote, Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
And Mayor Wygand?
And I vote yes also. Motion carries. Item 17.
This is Assistant City Clerk Misty Kemp speaking. Request for approval of ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 2, Section 4-203 of the Municipal Code.
Chief Weingartner and City Attorney Blaine Finch will speak to this. The staff will provide details of the amendment. Chief? Or Blaine?
Mr. Mayor, Blaine Finch, City Attorney. As we visited on Monday, this suggested change to the ordinance came to us from one of our eagle-eyed officers who noticed that the reference in the current code section was to a portion of the code that had since been repealed. This section of the code contains several places where a person cannot drink or consume alcoholic liquor in the city. Primarily, those are public spaces, sidewalks, streets, highways, also in what used to be called taverns. Those are drinking establishments that only serve beer. And then finally, within a motor vehicle within the city, those prohibited places all have to, as one of the elements of the crime, reference what is an alcoholic liquor. And so when that definitional section was changed in our code and this reference was not updated, we lost the ability to prove up that element of the crime by reference to the code. So this needed to be changed to correct that reference. That has been changed. We've also tried to make this a little easier to understand and read by breaking out those different places where consumption and drinking of alcohol is prohibited. It does not change the fine amount. It does not change the level of the crime, but it does change the reference within our code. And this also harmonizes it with our temporary event permit regulations, which you all have adopted over the prior couple of years. So by working with the city prosecutor and our police department, I think we've made an improvement to the code here, which will help them enforce the intent of our laws throughout the city. And we would ask for your approval today.
Thank you, Mr. Finch. Any other questions or comments on this? Pretty straightforward. I call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
This is Commissioner Kaler. I will move that we approve the ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 2, Section 404-203 of the Municipal Code, and send my thanks to the studious eye of the police officer who found this.
Commissioner Crowley, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, would the clerk call for the roll? Call for the vote.
Assistant City Clerk Misty Kemp speaking. How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley,
Yes.
Mayor Weigand.
I vote yes also, motion carried. I want to go back to the, I don't think it was spoken today. We've mentioned it before, but when we do the neighborhood revitalization program, we also have to have the approval of the school district and the county on that. And I'm assuming they have approved those, and we'll be doing it in the future.
Mayor Weigand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Commissioner Kaler.
We are, I serve on the committee with all the individuals that have to, or that are required to approve on that. And so I don't want to overspeak for Mrs. Lee, but generally when I get there to sign, generally we either already have all the signatures, but I don't believe anything comes to us unless every entity has given their approval.
Okay.
So it's a great collaboration among many among many entities here in our community.
I thought that should be brought out. Thank you so much. Okay, we're city manager. Have you got a report for us?
Commissioners, I have 3 items for you. We are still in the midst of COVID. I see Commissioner Crowley has his mask around his neck. I appreciate seeing that. I appreciate everyone that wears a mask. It is one of the ways we can mitigate the spread. And it is important as we go into the fall, especially as we had a workshop yesterday on the flu season. Go get your flu shots. They are 40 to 60% effective. All right. Now that may not sound important, but it is a difference between disaster and staying well. Does not mean you will not get the flu, because you can still get the flu, but it may not be to the extent you might if you don't get a shot. There are options. If you say, oh, I'm allergic to an egg, there are options. You need to talk to your medical provider and they can give you options on getting the flu shot, but it's important for our citizens and important for you to do that. So that's all on the flu. Today is our first virtual intergovernmental meeting in history with the USD and with the Franklin County at noon. We've sent you the Zoom connection to do that. It'll be just like what we did before, except we are not eating lunch. Well, you might be eating lunch at your desk, but we are not serving lunch virtually. It's just not possible. So, Mayor, we're hosting this, so you'll start out like you did before, talk about whatever the accomplishments of the city, where we're at, and then go around the table, and then what other reports you might want to hear also. And we only have an hour. We have an hour on the Zoom. After 60 minutes, it will automatically shut off. So we allocate far more than that for our city commission meetings, just if you're concerned about that.
I think an hour is plenty, and this meeting, we will not have to wait for everyone to finish eating before we start the meeting. We'll have the preamble to the meeting today.
That's true. And one more thing, a little interesting constitutional fact. Our Constitution is the shortest governing document of any nation today. 7 articles, 27 amendments. It is also the oldest document. Do you want to take a guess as to what country has the second oldest document?
How about Spain?
All right, I'm going to tell you anyway. Norway.
Okay.
Norway has the second oldest document codified in 1814. Thank you for the meeting today.
I'm going to write that down for the next time we have a police trivia night. Okay, be a good question. Sarah's already making note of that because she's won about the last 3 of those things or something.
Yeah. Go ahead and just say all of them, Mayor
All
Weigand.
of them.
It's not true, but.
So you're not going to show up this year, are you?
Yes, we are.
Okay, Commissioner, since you're up, you give the report. You give your report. Commissioner Kaler.
Thank you so much, Mayor Wigan. I don't have anything at this time. I wish everybody well. This weekend is generally a pretty busy weekend for our community. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we're unable to host that. And actually, when I say we, I really mean the car club, which always does an amazing job. So we generally have conversations about that this time of year. And I'm sad that we're unable to do so. But what I'm really hoping for is that next year we're able to have this conversation and to be excited to welcome back visitors to our community. So thank you.
On that topic, Commissioner, there'd be no law or no rule, and it's a great weekend, great weather to cruise Maine. And so at least our local residents can get that car out and show it to us as they drive around town. So thanks for mentioning that. Commissioner Crowley.
I have no report.
Commissioner Skidmore.
I have no report either.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
I'm sorry, I do have a small report. I just want to congratulate the Public Works Department on the beautiful new street on Cedar between 800 and the 800 block of Cedar. It looks fantastic. It's very smooth, and this is something that I believe, and Michael may confirm this, or Richard, that it was all done with city staff, labor, and equipment that performed the work on that. But it's a very good street. I drive on it several times a day, and and I just congratulations, and I think it's probably money well spent and man hours well spent.
Commissioner, this is Mike Hafley, Public Works Director. If you're referring to, you did say Cedar Street?
Yes, Cedar, 800 block of Cedar.
That was actually done by a contractor.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I thought that City Crews did that, but the contractor did an excellent job on it.
A local contractor.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Mayor Wygand saw a local contractor doing a nice job at 15th and Main yesterday, or was it Monday? But anyway, it's smoothed up a big problem there at 15th and Main. It's very nice. I don't believe I have a report. Richard covered the COVID thing and the be careful thing and the Constitution thing, and so the moon thing. So I'm going to read the appointment, the announcements. Today, of course, we do have the USDA county city government meeting virtually, and then September 21st. That's next Monday at 4 o'clock. We will have our study session by Zoom. By September 28th, we have another study session at 4 o'clock also by Zoom, and October 5th study session by Zoom, and October 7th will be our next regular meeting, and that's at 7 p.m. And that will be a virtual meeting also. There's nothing else to come before this meeting. We did get it over in an hour. My clock on the wall says it's about 10:59. So thank you, Commissioners. We'll see you at noon.